Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Following news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please, let's go to the headlines.
Tonight, the breaking news, the firebomb attack, Americans set on fire, the new and horrific video right here, and now the hate crime charges. Tonight, the disturbing images of that horrific attack of a suspect now facing 16 counts of attempted murder and federal hate crime charges for allegedly firebombing peaceful demonstrators. They were bringing attention to the hostages still being held by Hamas. Demonstrators set on fire, including a Holocaust survivor. And tonight, what we've learned, the suspect told authorities after he was arrested. Also tonight, here's Arthur Raditz with new reporting after Ukraine's stunning drone attack deep inside Russia. Look at the images tonight. Dozens of Russian warplanes set on fire by drones sent into Russia in what look like shipping containers. The drones then lifting up out of those containers and flying straight to their targets. Tonight, Martha interviewing President Zelensky. What comes next? Also breaking here, the images coming in now. Tourists running in fear, Americans reportedly among them. The massive eruption on Mount Etna. Thousands running for safety. You can hear the roar of the volcano. A helicopter tour pilot capturing the moment from the air. In Boston, dramatic moment, the Karen Reed murder trial and the death of her Boston police officer boyfriend. Tonight, the witness that Karen Reed's team called to the stand, and what she then said. Did the witness backfire? You'll hear it. The warning for millions of Americans tonight, the Canadian wildfires burning out of control, and now the smoke here in the U.S. and where it's headed. The plane crashing into the Atlantic, the small plane going down at night right off the East Coast. The remarkable effort to find those on board. President Trump's massive budget bill, several Republican senators just arriving back on the Hill tonight, and what they're now saying about this. And the senator told constituents, we're all going to die after their concerns over Medicaid cuts. And tonight, so many of you at home have been following the story of the baby eagles right here.
In today's day and age, this is a stunning act of bravery and, yes, defiance. Two high school track stars refused to stand on the medal podium after in the championship. Why? Because the athlete next to them was a biological male. Alexa Anderson and Reese Eckert placed third. Refused to take and made surrender spots to a trans. Here to tell her story is Alexa Anderson, along with Jessica Steinman, Executive General Counsel for First Institute. Alexa, look, you finished ahead of the trans athlete in this efforts and 1, 2, and 3 spots from athletes. Did you take a stand for them as well?
This was my first time competing against a transgender individual, so this is the first public stand that I have taken in this issue, but I have privately supported all of the girls.
Watch this. Why is it unfair?
It's unfair because biological males and biological females compete at such different levels that allowing a biological male into our competition and working when a girl in 9th who should have been in 8th and had that podium spot had that taken away from her, as well as many others.
In all of those slots, Jessica, whether you're 8th or 5th or 4th, that all works toward, your points and your national standing. And so all of those places matter. People say, oh, she didn't finish first, second, or third, so it doesn't matter. But it does matter. And I think Alexa made that point.
No, it's so important, Laura, and I want to say thank you to Alexa for really standing up for all the courageous girls out there and doing the right thing. And Laura, thank you for bringing attention to this national issue. I think one thing that we've talked about is access to the podium, access to those scholarships, and in this situation, not even just that access, but the First Amendment issue that came about when they were asked to and kind of sidelined from the competition here.
So tell us about that, Alexa. Being in any way ostracized or treated differently because you have a sense of view on this. A lot of young women are afraid to speak out or even do a silent protest.
Yeah, we stand in protest, and as you can see in the video, an official kind of told us, hey, go over there. If you're not going to participate, get out of the photos.
So you couldn't even have your moment. That wasn't allowed. You had to stand forward, not your back to it.
They asked us to move away from the medal stand, so when they took the photos, we weren't even in it at all.
Yes, well, you don't really deserve to be there because you just worked hard and you competed and you've done it your entire life, by the way, which is a grueling sport that takes hundreds and even thousands of hours to perfect at any level. Jessica, I know America First Legal has filed discrimination actions in these cases. Briefly explain this to us. I think you filed a Title IX case.
Yes, so America First Policy Institute, we filed a complaint with the Department of Education.
Tonight, the disturbing new video from that attack in Colorado. The suspect accused of lighting people on fire because they supported Israel. Inside the chaos, the new video showing what appears to be the suspect's first violent moves. A throw, then smoke and chaos. What we're learning about the Egyptian national in jail on a federal hate crime charge. His planning that began more than a year ago, and the 16 unused Molotov cocktails filled with gasoline. Among the 12 victims, a Holocaust survivor. And why, according to court documents, he says he would do it again. The tense moments when an ICE raid sparked a dramatic backlash. This as one of the president's top advisors blasts immigration officials, demanding they round up at least 3,000 people a day. Ukraine's bold attack on Russia's long-range bombers, the covert drone operation that turned shipping trucks into Trojan horses. Etna explosion, tourists fleeing for their lives, the volcanic eruption caught on camera.
He had his whole life out of him, and it was just so preventable and so unnecessary.
And our new series, The Cost of Denial, the painful story of a young man who died after he faced a dramatically higher price for his asthma inhaler, why his parents are now suing, and what they say their son wasn't told. The wildfires from Canada triggering U.S. air quality alerts, and the new severe weather threat, Al Roker standing by. And head over heels, this high school hurdler fell with just a few feet to go, how she somersaulted her way to first place. Nightly News starts right now. This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Yonas. On this Monday night, premiers make their pitch to the Prime Minister. What's on the wish list of the provinces and territories? The words that I'm hearing from the Prime Minister, I think, are encouraging. The pressure to approve projects. A frightening experience on the front lines in Alberta. They're the heroes for what they went through. The terrifying dangers some firefighters face as wildfires rage across the prairies. A gruesome attack against Jews investigated as terrorism. I saw fire, I saw people falling and screaming and crying and tripping. What's known about the suspect and what he was armed with? Plus, watch these spaces. They really built them as social destinations. What might be in store for all those historic Hudson's Bay buildings? Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Eric Sorensen. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Against the backdrop of wildfires, economic uncertainty, and strained relations with the United States, Canada's first ministers have met to chart a course for this country's future. Prime Minister Mark Carney gathered with the country's premiers in Saskatoon to discuss what the federal government can do to help each of them, and equally important, how they can help each other to become less dependent on the U.S. Trade barriers and the firebombing in Boulder.
He acted because he hated what he called the Zionist group.
Prosecutors announce hate crimes and attempted murder charges against the suspect as the number of victims rises.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News.
Good evening, I'm John Dickerson.
I'm Maurice Dubois.
The
Police in Boulder, Colorado now say 12 people were injured in the Sunday attack on a group demonstrating in support of Israelis held hostage by Hamas.
And as bad as it was, it could have been much worse. They say they've recovered 16 unused Molotov cocktails.
The suspect will be charged by both the state and federal governments with hate crimes and attempted murder. State charges alone could carry more than 6 centuries in prison.
Prosecutors say the suspect has confessed, has no regrets, and would do it again.
Nancy Cordes at the White House has the president's reaction, but we begin with Jason Allen in Boulder. Jason?
John, people have been visiting the site of the attack here throughout the day, some of them bringing flowers, and police are very visible in the area today. Investigators revealed that the suspect had tried to buy a gun, but then realized he couldn't because he's not a citizen. And that's when he turned to the plan to use Molotov cocktails instead. Mohammed Solomon appeared before a Colorado judge Monday, facing charges of attempted murder. According to an affidavit filed by the Department of Justice, the 45-year-old Solomon planned the attack for a year. The FBI says witnesses allegedly heard Solomon yell, "Free Palestine," and he used a makeshift flamethrower and Molotov cocktails to attack demonstrators.
Good evening, I'm Amna Navaz. Jeff Bennett is away. On the NewsHour tonight, the man accused of firebombing a Jewish gathering in Boulder, Colorado is charged with a hate crime. What we know about the suspect and those injured. A complex Ukrainian drone operation more than a year in the making deals a blow to Russia while the two sides negotiate. And how the Trump administration plans to slash NASA's budget.
The proposal for the NASA science budget is, in fact, cataclysmic for U.S. leadership in science.
Hello and a very warm welcome. If you're just joining us, you're watching Daybreak here on France 24. These are the headlines. After months of political turmoil, South Korea's vote for their next president, hoping whoever takes over will reunite the country that's been polarized since the previous president briefly installed martial law and then was ousted from office. Agreeing to another prisoner swap but failing to take any step towards ending the war, a 2-hour meeting between Russian and Ukrainian delegates yields little but calls for more talks, this time between the two presidents directly. Opening fire once again on people trying to get some vital food supplies, Israeli soldiers accused of shooting more Palestinians as the spokesperson for the military now admits on camera that they are the ones setting up the distribution points and not any independent entity. After months of political turmoil ignited by the fall of President Yoon Suk-yeol, who briefly imposed martial law at the end of last year, South Koreans are currently voting for their next president. While Yoon faces trial for insurrection, the government has been led by a...
Hello, good morning everyone. It's 6 o'clock. Our top story. 18 years after her disappearance, a major new search for Madeleine McCann begins in Portugal this morning.
Plus, one of the authors of the Strategic Defence Review warns that Russian cruise missiles could strike the UK within 90 minutes in theory.
It's Tuesday, the 3rd of June. Police investigating the disappearance of Madeleine McCann are about to start new searches near the chief suspect's old home. Putting Britain on a war footing, one of the UK's top generals warns that Russian missiles could do the same damage to London and Birmingham that they've done to Kyiv.
It's not saying it's about to happen or imminent, but in terms of the capability, a cruise missile is only 90 minutes away from the UK.
The Chancellor threatens to sue Roman Abramovich over the profits from the sale of Chelsea Football Club. We also report from Sierra Leone on how a world-famous chimpanzee sanctuary is under threat from illegal land grabs. And in sport, Jack Draper is knocked out of the French Open after a stunning comeback from Alexander Bublik. Hello, good morning everyone. So 18 years then after her disappearance.
Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Good
good morning. The hunt for Madeleine McCann begins again.
German police launch a fresh investigation for the missing toddler and predator in Portugal.
Well, land near the former home of the main suspect in the case, Christian Bruckner, will be searched in the hope for a breakthrough in the 18-year unsolved case.
We've demonstrated that we are a government dedicated to delivering for defence, committing the largest sustained increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War.
Battle ready or not, defence officials say Britain needs more troops to confront Russia as the government looks at plans to roll out a new military-style gap year for young adults. Would you take part in that?
8 years on since the London Bridge terror attack, we remember the 8 people who tragically lost their lives that day. We'll be joined by a survivor later this hour.
Is Brexit fueling the migrant crisis? One of France's top politicians blames Britain for the surge in small boat crossings.
The British village being terrorised by peacocks. We'll hear from locals in Staffordshire who say that the birds are destroying their gardens and keeping them awake in the middle of the night.
Elsewhere, the Education Secretary says white working-class children have been left behind and betrayed by politicians. We're asking, is the government to blame?
We'll be joined by singer Chesney Hawkes to tell us all the details of his latest tour.
And in sport this morning, both Jack Draper and Cam Norrie were knocked out of the French Open yesterday. It's a new breakaway Grand Prix style rugby league, which has been announced, and West Bromwich Albion have a new manager.
Hello there, good morning. After some heavy rain overnight, it's an unsettled day ahead with further outbreaks of rain and also some blustery showers. Stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
Hello there, very good morning. Nice to have you on board. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, I'm Eamon Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
This is Asia Now.
Hello, it's 2 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 11:30 in New Delhi, 1 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Angela Lim. That is our. South Koreans are voting for a new president exactly 6 months after former leader Yoon Suk-yeol's martial law attempt. Voter turnout has surpassed 65% so far, the highest at this time of day in any past elections. Gaza officials say at least 20 people killed after Israeli troops opened fire at an aid distribution center. The IDF reporting that they fired warning shots. And 1 person dead and dozens of others injured after a 5.8 magnitude earthquake struck southwestern Turkey. This comes after an earlier tremor struck a group of Greek islands near the country's border.
Today, businesses share frustrations with the Fair Work Commission's decision to increase the minimum wage by 3.5%.
An increase of this magnitude is going to be very difficult for them to swallow.
Anderson gives evidence at a trial. Russia and Ukraine failed to reach a ceasefire deal, instead signing off and a crackdown on cryptocurrency ATM scams, which are costing Australians millions of dollars each year. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Real Giles. Millions of workers will get a 3.5% pay rise from next month. The Fair Work Commission has set the new minimum wage to just under $25 an hour, giving full-time workers around $32 extra each week. The Prime Minister says he's pleased with today's decision.
Now we've had 5
Africa News. The news.
Microsoft founder Bill Gates said he plans to spend most of his $200 billion fortune on improving health and education services across Africa. He
made the announcement on Monday in an address at the African Union headquarters in the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa. Gates said that unleashing human potential by improving health and education should put every country in Africa on a path to prosperity. Last month, the 69-year-old announced that he would give away 99% of his vast fortune by 2045, when the Gates Foundation plans to end its operations. Writing in a blog post last month, he said that people will say a lot of things about him when he dies, but that he was determined that he died rich would not be one of them. Gates also urged the continent's young innovators to think about how to use artificial intelligence to improve healthcare. Sudan's new Prime Minister Camille Idris has dissolved the country's caretaker government, according to reports from state news agency SUNA. The news came late on Sunday, just one day after Idris took the oath of office as the country's first Prime Minister since the military coup 4 years ago. Then in April 2023, Sudan plunged into civil war when tensions between the military and the breakaway rapid support forces exploded into open warfare. In a speech on Sunday, Idris urged countries supporting the RSF to cease criminal operations. Idris did not say when a new government would be appointed. After violent protests in Bangui blocked an opposition party meeting on Saturday, leaving 2 people dead, the Republican Bloc for the Defense of the Constitution, or BRDC, is pointing the finger at the ruling United Heart Party. They're accusing officials of organising the violence that disrupted the event at a football stadium in the capital.
Today is a very sad day for democracy. For over a month now, we've been making an appointment with the Central African people, and we've taken all the necessary precautions. We informed the Ministry of Territorial Administration, the Interior Ministry, and MINUSCA so that our meeting could take place peacefully. Unfortunately, the party in power, the MCU, has mobilized all its energy to attack our activists, 2 of whom are in local hospitals as we speak.
The BRDC says it received all necessary authorizations to hold the meeting and has accused police and UN peacekeepers MINUSCA of doing nothing to prevent the attacks on activists and journalists. Organisers of the match where the violence broke out say they have no connection to the ruling party. The BRDC is calling on the Central African people to mobilise for a common cause ahead of the presidential election at the end of this year. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, speaking at the NATO summit, said Russia and Kyiv have agreed to free more prisoners of war, plus swap 6,000 bodies of dead soldiers. A second round of direct talks between the two sides in Turkey on Monday failed to achieve much else.
Our delegation is now in Istanbul, and we are ready to take the necessary steps for peace. Naturally, the starting point should be ceasefire and humanitarian actions, the release of prisoners, and the return of abducted children. And all key issues can be resolved at the level of leaders. And if Russia demise even this initial agenda, and if the Istanbul meeting brings nothing, that clearly means strong new sanctions are urgently needed from the EU's 18th package and from the United States.
The Istanbul talks lasted just over an hour. Russia again rejected a key Ukrainian demand, an unconditional ceasefire. Turkey's president says he will try to facilitate a meeting between Zelensky and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. Latin American tourists are flocking into China after Beijing's unilateral visa-free policy came into effect on Sunday. Ordinary passport holders from Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Peru and Uruguay can now travel freely to the country. More than 115,000 visits made by foreigners are covered by the visa-free policy. Most of them come for tourism, business or family visits, with travellers from the US, Singapore and Malaysia, the top 3 nationalities. Hong Kong's West Kowloon station serves as a vital transport hub connecting it with China's mainland, allowing passengers to go through both border checks in one place.
I think it's a great opportunity for South American people. China and South America have great relationships, and this will help to grow both countries and both nations. I think it's amazing because we can go back and forth. It makes both of the countries generate a better partnership together.
Immigration data shows that about 500,000 foreigners passed through the station in the first 5 months of the year, a 33% year-on-year growth.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Have a good life. Bye-bye.